Bybit was the biggest crypto hack we've ever seen. And today we have Yev Broshevan. She is the CEO of Hacken. She's going to tell us a little bit about what happened with the Bybit hack, how cybersecurity in crypto is expanding, how she started this small startup in Ukraine and built it to over 140 people. And they just celebrated their 8th-year birthday with what is going to be the future of cybersecurity, pen testing, audits. They now have CASP and VASP compliance. This is a crazy episode. She tells us all the early conversations that were happening in crypto in 2014 and what projects made it and some that didn't make it. If you're building anything in crypto, whether that's payments, stablecoin infrastructure, running an exchange, or anything that involves custody or key management, this is going to be the best episode for you to listen to. We cover a lot in this episode, and she just has concise answers, invigorating conversation, and I know you're going to love it. If you do, reach out to me and Yev and ask us some more questions, and we'll help you out. Talk soon. This is your host, Stephen Sargeant, the Around the Coin podcast. We are extremely lucky today because hot off the press, Hacken is expanding. Hacken, one of the biggest cybersecurity companies in crypto. We have Yev, the now CEO of Hacken. Yev, tell us a little bit about yourself. We're going to touch on your background and then get really into like the cybersecurity perspective of what's going on in crypto that's seeing us plagued with a lot of exploits and vulnerabilities.
Hey, happy to join.
I'm curious, like you started out, it looked like you were going the path of like aerospace, and we've had a couple, astronaut type professionals here, aerospace professionals that have gone into crypto, which is an interesting transition. When you went to National Aerospace University, what were your career aspirations at the time? What did you think you were going to end up doing?
It's funny enough that I studied cybersecurity in National Aerospace University. So, literally, it was one of the few universities that were starting cybersecurity departments back then in 2012. So, all the career I was in cybersecurity and still here, just changing a bit angles. But it was really interesting to study not only domain expertise like basic computer science, then cybersecurity, and then I was studying like how each part of the plane is called, and like I was drawing this in my classes and learning about physics and thermodynamics and stuff like that. So it was kind of complex, but now I can see that I'm spending in the airport probably third of the year. So really it was the inspirations from the university, because I remember that in our territory we had a lot of different airplanes and different type of like parts of the airplane. So I was always surrounded by that. And now I just changed it from the old stuff to like real time flights.
I love that you're like on the tarmac and in the hangar going through the with the mechanics of all the different parts of
Yes.
the airplane. When did you first hear about crypto? Because computer science, cybersecurity background. You come from Ukraine, which is a very technical forward country. When did you first hear about crypto, and what were your first initial thoughts about crypto?
Yeah, funny enough, I first learned about crypto in university from my professor who told me about Bitcoin back in 2014. We were discussing mining in the computers that we had. And back then, like crypto, for a lot of people from the cybersecurity sphere, crypto is for cryptography. And they're kind of, angry when they say crypto is for cryptocurrencies. But back then, I learned about Bitcoin, and later that year I visited first lecture about Bitcoin in Kharkiv by Pavel Kravchenko. He like was just back from San Francisco, like really inspired about all this Bitcoin decentralized systems, and was sharing this with the local students at the university. And I visited one of his lectures and got really inspired about that. And that's how I got my first crypto job and starting working in this direction with him.
That's crazy. 2014 is you've
Yes.
seen probably a lot of projects. You probably heard a lot of people pontificate and talk about crypto. Is there any projects back then that you were like extremely bullish on and hasn't quite worked out the way you thought it would over the last decade? Like I know we were supposed to bank all the underbank or unbanked people. That hasn't exactly happened since I've been in the industry. Was there any projects that really surprised you that like, wow, blew up that you're like, I didn't really know about that project? And then vice versa, you thought it was going to change the world and it kind of fizzled out, or the concept kind of fizzled out?
My first job was doing security research from different crypto exchanges and then secure messengers. I don't remember any of them that like survived till this time, but there were a lot of concepts around that. But honestly, if we look back then, for me, it's about like surviving in this market. And what companies that we started to work back then was like Stellar and Ripple, and they're still here, still on the top charts. So that's definitely the guys who've been for a long time. And obviously Bitcoin, because I remember in 2015 we did quite a few lectures in Ukraine for students about like what Bitcoin is, what the centralized system is, and how it works. And as a practice, we sent to all of them a bit of Bitcoin. It was, I don't remember what was that, under 1K for sure. And I remember in 2017, because my phone number was in all these lectures, people called me and say like, I remember you sent me Bitcoins. Can you like help me to recover my wallet? How can I how can I get access back to it? Was like, I don't know, like $10 back then, but in 2017 it was definitely more. So that's the technology and the stories that really make me interested, because we see the progress and like how people were not interested back then in 2015 and how they were like get their interest back in 2017.
That's hilarious. The Around the Point podcast for this, the original host had the same experience. He was helping sending people $20, and then obviously they lost the passwords and the seed phrases, and he was helping recover. So that seems like a very common story for early adopters in crypto. Is
Yeah.
that probably a lot more calls now? I'm assuming, but we all know they didn't make it past that 2017
You
without
know,
trying to sell for
yes.
a new for a car or a watch.
In 2015, we were organizing conferences here in Ukraine, gathering all different cryptographers and developers back then in Odessa. And one of the guys who visited the conference, he had the challenge to live without credit cards for a year and paying everything everywhere in Bitcoin. And it was like really interesting how he tried to get his way here in Ukraine. And I was paying for his breakfast and he sent me Bitcoins, and I never sold that Bitcoins since since
That's
2015.
amazing.
It was like really expensive breakfast if we calculate to current rates.
some some expensive eggs Benedict.
Yeah,
You've
kind of.
you focus so much of your career on cybersecurity and ethical hacking. You saved probably billions of dollars worth of exploits and vulnerabilities for companies all throughout the blockchain. What has improved over the last decade when it comes to cybersecurity? And what are we still not really doing well in crypto? I would love to know the dichotomy of things that are like, hey, we're really getting this down, and people that read your report and chain analysis reports are like $4 billion in 1 year of exploits. Like, why aren't we doing better?
So, starting from 2017, our initial idea was to launch a bug bounty platform that we did called Hacken. And I remember, because I was the person who kind of trying to convince first clients to use bug bounty, and for sure it was like ahead of time. People didn't even understand why they need to invest in security and like general security audits, penetration testing. But then when we were talking about bug bounty, it was like, oh my god, like why are you guys even doing this? So I remember first bucks was that wild, as from all the KYC documents that you submit to crypto exchanges, that you can easily get like IDORs and get the all these pictures that you're sending to them. So this was definitely basic Web2 vulnerabilities, nothing to do with crypto, just basic Web2 stuff. So we started like helping companies since probably November, December 2017. And obviously it was all started with different phishing campaigns, like stealing Twitters, Telegrams, fake websites, and all this kind of stuff. And then I've seen that because I was working in traditional Web2 security and seen all these basics. Nothing were like super special about crypto. Then we saw like more sophisticated attacks probably around 2018, more with the smart contract vulnerabilities and this kind of stuff. And people started like think probably I should invest a bit into security before actually launching ICOs. And that's how we started all the service line, because we didn't plan to do service business in the beginning. And like some of the friends just reached out and say like, hey guys, yeah, I know you're in cybersecurity, could you please help us? Because we all saw all this like attacks in 2017, especially October, December, with like phishing campaigns, stealing like Twitters and Telegrams just before the ICO. So that was kind of the situation back then. Of course, over the years we got better. We got better definitely in smart contract audits. Now people understand why they need bug bounties, and now in the other stage, understanding why we need on-chain monitoring. So I would say is that through all these 8 years, we get through stages of understanding. Okay, it's needed. Okay, I need to invest for it, and now we're getting to the next layer. But I still believe we have a lot of stuff to learn from Web 2 security, where it's been like for ages. And I mean, we think that we are super like novel and very smart, but in the end of the day we're not doing the basics that we should do, like looking at the traditional finance security or traditional like tech markets. So we still have way to go, but what I really like is to be kind of in this market ahead of time when people still don't understand why you need this, and kind of building the solutions that would be used in a couple of years. We got through this with the bug bounties, with the smart contract audits, and with all other services that we launched along the way. Because I think we launched layer one audits around 2021, so
Yeah.
not that long time ago. And before it was more kind of black box in the market. And also same happening now with the on-chain monitoring solutions. It's only kind of booming for last couple of years. But if we look at Web2 practices, it's just a normal like monitoring stuff that we should have done before.
Are you shocked by the amount of companies, protocols, projects that aren't implementing a preventative way of cybersecurity? We're seeing a lot of like, hey, we got hacked. Now we'll offer you a bounty to give us the money back, or we'll offer you a job because you're such a great hacker. Are you surprised that we are still very reactive in the industry and not as preventative as we could be?
I'm not surprised by anything in this industry anymore. I've been too long here, but it makes me sad that with all this hacks on the market, with all the efforts that different companies do to protect users and funds, we're still not investing in this. And we can see this a lot from the communication in bug bounties, for example, when like companies don't care about the vulnerabilities, but it's like a real problem and like real issues that can be done by these vulnerabilities. I mean,
Are you
security is expensive.
Right. I don't like to think of it as expensive. I'd like to think of it as an investment, right? Like you invest on the front end so you don't have to worry and be paranoid in the back end. And I think more companies need to think about that. I'm curious, is it surprising that maybe like the consumers, like they're sending, crypto to these DeFi protocols, they're getting hacked. Some of them are shutting down, some of them are repaying customers. But are you surprised that consumers aren't a little bit more diligent about who they're investing their crypto with and demanding that, hey, if we're going to go with this protocol, it has to have these security measures, it has to go through this security audit, this smart contract audit, this pen testing? Or do you feel like we're still in the age where people are just throwing crypto at the highest yield projects?
How people can think about security when you can see all these returns of their investments? It's crazy, right? If you see like 5% more, you just definitely go there, like whoever is like security, whatever. But honestly, I think that we lost quite a lot of trust in this market with a lot of situations that happened over the years. And it's our responsibility right now to restore this trust from regular users, because having situations like FTX or something like that, all these people who are saying like, it's just another pyramid or something like that, they're saying like, oh, you see, I told you. So it's up to us now to show that the products we build and the technology is like secure enough for mass adoption that we're all dreaming about. And I see a lot of projects that deal with B2C specifically. They are doing their best to build security measures for users that they're kind of mandatory and preventing from all the majority of hacks. Like look at any solar crypto exchange. They have all this like trading codes, 2FAs, backups, like phishing codes, a lot of stuff to protect users. Because if you look at regular user, they definitely kind of storing their money on centralized crypto exchanges. And that's like where the key point of failure might be. And in crypto it's different. It's like your keys your crypto, not your keys not your crypto, right? And this shift is very hard for regular users to understand, because we kind of stuck with this bank mindset when you can call support and they fix your problem. But in crypto it's not like that. So also, I think it's also about the awareness of the users and changing their mindset, like how the system is different, like why you're getting this like more yield. What is the difference in the technology itself? I understand that in the ideal case, users should not care about that, but we're kind of still early for this. So I think that's where we need also users that think about this.
Right. Like in the traditional world, we'll put our credit card in any website. We don't care because we know we can call the credit card company and say, hey, that wasn't me. And it's, wiped off of our bill. In crypto, there's no one to call. You might be able to do a tweet that gets some traction, but that's not going to help you recover your cryptocurrency, especially when, the DeFi protocol is tweeting out that they want to give a job to the person that has these customers' money in order to get a percentage back. Is there a security standard within the industry for crypto businesses when it comes to security? Now, I know you're part of one of my favorite organizations, the Cryptocurrency Certification Consortium, C4. You guys have the cryptocurrency security standard, but it's more of a best practices. I know you were steering that committee. It's more of a best practice. Is there an actual standard? Or like when companies are like, hey, we want to start a blockchain payments company or a DeFi protocol, is there something that a checklist that they can go through to say, hey, we're at least trying our best to follow the minimum required to protect our users' funds?
Definitely standards in the sense industry is a big topic. So we, through the years, we've been part of different groups, starting from Ethereum Enterprise Alliance and their East Trust group for smart contract vulnerabilities. So then another group also within the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance called Drama for DeFi risks, and definitely CCSS for majority like key management and building the systems around this. I still think that it's not enough. There are different groups working towards this direction. If we look at the recent White House documents, they mentioned that standards is something vital for this industry that need to be taken into account. And I was like really surprised to see security auditors as the important part of this ecosystem. And it really makes me happy because finally it's something that we've been working on for long years there on the government level and kind of required, because like you mentioned about security, right? So you do it in a couple of cases. First, you're hacked and it's already kind of too late. Second, someone demanding this from you. It's either like exchanges, launchpads, these or now regulators. And the third case, you are like really security conscious, which happens not that often, honestly, but still like it's getting better year over year. So we definitely need more standards, and one of the like good mix of everything that you can do, especially for crypto exchanges, you can go to CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko, and they have their trust score, and there are a lot of like different criterias that you can go through to kind of be compliant or get like maximum trust from the users. So, and if you look at cybersecurity there, because we are the part of this project and providing them data by one of our initiatives. So it's more about the like regular penetration testing. It's about bug bounties. It's about the insurance fund. It's about having CCSS and some other stuff that required for crypto exchanges, to get the maximum users and maximum trust that they can get. But
I
we're
can
still far, and contributing to standards is important. Not a lot of people like to do it because it's not really, that I don't know.
I
Mm,
could say it's not fun. Cybersecurity is not fun. It's not sexy, and it feels
Trust
like
us.
it's like paying the insurance for blackjack. You're putting money into something that may never happen or may never affect you. So why not just save that money and pay it on the back end, right? Just like compliance, right? Companies are not focused on compliance until they get the penalty. Then they're like, well, the penalty, the cost of doing business, like we'll pay the penalty, but we already stole like 20%
Yes.
market share from not being maybe the most compliant exchange or the most compliant
But
protocol.
now it's important, right? You cannot operate crypto business right now without being compliant and getting licensed, especially in some jurisdictions. So we're getting there.
Yeah, jurisdictional arbitrage is almost completely eliminated, especially with the EU, MiCA. We have, Dubai, Canada, Singapore, Hong Kong. There's very few jurisdictions that you can operate like this and still be able to maintain market share. I want to jump into Hacken. The company's done a great job branding itself over the last few years, especially as being one of the leaders in crypto security. But for those that don't follow cybersecurity for the reasons we just mentioned, can you explain like what is your core offering and the clients maybe that you serve?
Definitely. So Hacken is a blockchain security and compliance partner for everything born on blockchain and connected to blockchain. So we work with different crypto exchanges, wallets, L1s, L2s. And what we started doing as well, working with different regulators, banks, and like traditional businesses implementing digital assets and blockchain related technologies to their operations. And that's the most interesting for me because I can see now that from that kind of sandbox in 2014, now we're having all the like majority of the businesses operating and experimenting with blockchain. That's like really big journey through this more than 10 years, but now you see the reality of it, not just, a group of nerds taking about like cryptography and decentralized systems. So like
I'm
just for offering, okay, you want to comment?
sorry, go ahead.
You want to comment something on that?
Oh no, I was curious. When you say regulators, I'm like, oh, okay, all those crypto businesses, L1s, L2s, all of that makes sense. Payment service providers, stablecoin issuers. What are your position? What is your partnership when it comes to regulators? I think I saw the ADGM, which is based out of Abu Dhabi. What's your relationship there? And they're very forward thinking when it comes to digital asset and
Yes.
regulation because we're seeing more and more regulators, more and more public sector getting involved in digital assets, especially with the explosion and momentum in the US. If it's a regulator listening to this conversation, how could they partner with a company like Hacken? And what's their biggest benefit for making sure? Is it a security of the reporting entities to them, or is it security over their own infrastructure where they're implementing stablecoin payments, CBDCs, etc.?
You see, like security can be applied to anything of all these ecosystem players. So, starting from regulators, what we help them is to first monitor all the licenses and security of these licenses and like what's happening in the ecosystem and whether they're kind of like breaking any requirements, cybersecurity requirements that needed to be done. Or also from another side, we help companies who wants to get licensed to put all the cybersecurity requirements that's needed. For example, if you look at the ADGM or DORA, or for example, Bermuda requirements, you can see cybersecurity part where they require to have regular penetration testing, smart contract audits, on-chain monitoring, incident response plan. You having like CISO or virtual CISO. So there are a lot of requirements related to the security operations because if you look at any business, cybersecurity one of the top risks for business, especially when everything is online. And with all the digital assets now, it's not only about the centralized system that we can just push the red button, right? It's about the everything going on chain, and there is like in majority cases no red button. So making this right and making it compliant in order to prevent future risks and breaking trust of regulators of the regulated zones is the key here. So you can comment more on the compliance side from your perspective, how you see cybersecurity.
I feel like it's hand in hand. I think the EU has it right with Dora. It's like, hey, crypto exchanges, if you want to use a service provider, there's certain requirements for using a service provider, and that's going to change the industry. Not so much for maybe the crypto exchange, but these technology service providers are realizing, like, hey, we have to have better cybersecurity. We have to be more compliant. Otherwise, we don't get any customers. And I think that's the biggest way you impact things like cybersecurity and compliance is at the revenue stage, right? If you can't land the biggest customers because you're not following a certain level of rules and you can't, the consumers aren't pushing that kind of agenda, it's a great way for regulators to say, hey, we're not telling you who to use, but we're telling you the requirements in order to use them. What are your thoughts about Dora, and has that really changed the framework of your business model and helped boost the message to other exchanges and companies?
Yeah, I mean, we started doing this like probably beginning last year, and I can see that only somewhere now it's getting momentum, and getting more popular, and companies actually taking care of that. For our clients as a Bybit, we did the penetration testing for them to get a license in Austria for Mika. And this is one of the examples. And we helped a lot more companies in this part of the requirements to getting license and like penetration. It's called TLPT, threat-led penetration testing, and way more. So I see that this is, for us as the cybersecurity company, definitely it's great because someone pushes them to do cybersecurity. Not we are saying that, guys, probably you should do penetration testing or at least like review your code of the protocol, before launching it. So this is kind of third party push and the real implications if you don't do this properly.
Are you seeing regulation like DORA emerge in other places? Like usually a lot of countries around the world focus on what the UK and Europe is doing, kind of like copy their blueprint, and especially what's happening in the US. Do you see other conversations like DORA around the world?
So, as you mentioned, we work in the UAE market and with ADGM and VAR and some other guys who has the cybersecurity requirements in their requirement list for exchanges and any crypto businesses. This year, I was also visited Bermuda and BVI and trying to learn what are their requirements when it comes to cybersecurity for like virtual assets, digital assets, and like whoever. I don't know why we don't have like one name for this, but still, in every
What?
year,
What? CASP and VAS isn't
yes,
confusing
exactly.
for you?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So I see that in like some way there is cybersecurity part and in these requirements. Somewhere it's like more advanced, somewhere it's less, but still they are thinking about that, which is great. And comparing to 2017 when it was just completely like do whatever you want and raise money for anonymous projects, now we're definitely getting more mature as the industry and businesses.
Well, we got 2021 was a very NFTville, do what you want, kind of launch anything.
Yes.
And now, people would argue 2025, we have the same kind of, perspective when it comes to meme coins. What are your thoughts on things like meme coins where, the people can launch them within 5 minutes? Cybersecurity is definitely not an issue. What are your thoughts on how we can better protect ourselves as consumers? Is it, the platform's responsibilities, like, pump fun, fun pump, all these different ways of making NFTs. Whose responsibility is it to ensure that there's cybersecurity in such an emerging and trending, token like a meme coin?
For me, it's like more playground, right, for experiments and different kind of use cases. And of course, it's in the interest of the platforms to make the secure projects because in the end of the day, it impacts their reputation, right? So having them making the as much as possible to launch the secure projects is the key. And then, of course, it's responsibility of the like guys doing this.
You mentioned bug bounties. We had the Immunify CEO on the podcast, very similar models around bug bounties. From an outsider looking in, I would think bug bounties is competing with your actual business of, cybersecurity and smart contract audits. Does this go hand in hand? Does companies choose one or the other? Are bug bounties more of like a last resort after you've done all this testing?
So for us from the very beginning, it was being a security partner of the companies and helping them not with the small piece of security, but more looking at the system holistically and building defense in depth for them. So like usually, the best practices is having proper security development lifecycle, then having the like internal audits, external audits where Hacken as the auditors came in place, then having the external like crowdsourced audits and bug bounties. So this is the bug bounty platform Hacken Proof that we have. Then having the on-chain monitoring and then having insurance. So this is kind of the like stages that companies should do to minimize the risks of being hacked. And for us, it's more about helping customers holistically. So we definitely help them with all the penetration testing of the infrastructure, smart contract audits, protocol audits, cryptography audits. And then when we done everything internally, we pass this to Hack and Proof team to organize the either public or private program and attract ethical hackers and researchers from all over the world to test the systems after us. And usually the best practice is to have not one auditor, but there like a couple of auditors with different, perspectives and backgrounds because in the end of the day, we are like all human and we all make mistakes. And the most important is to have this diverse background, mindset, tools, and like the way people work. For example, in our team, we have around 30 nationalities. And for like audits, we combine different auditors, different teams doing different cross checks and quality checks. And then we pass all this to bug bounty. And of course, there is cases when we miss something. And in this case, it's really important to catch the bug first before it goes live. And some cyber criminals uses this big spot to attack the project. So for us, the responsibility is to do as much as possible to minimize the risks and diversify the background and mindset that people have who audits the code. So definitely it's about the layers, not the substitution, because it's totally different. If you look at the traditional Web2 market and the players like HackerOne and Backrowd, who's been operating for a lot of years in the market, this is the part of the general security practices. And also having stuff like vulnerability disclosure policies on your website is important. And in some governments and in some countries, this is the part of the process that they have for their systems. And I remember now is exactly the time of Black Hat and DEF CON in Las Vegas, the security conferences that's going for years. And I remember around like 7 years ago, I was in one of the live hacking events where there were, I don't remember how, like 50, 100 hackers were trying to hack the Navy systems in the US. And they like were interacting with all these security researchers and like government to find the spots. So no system is perfect. And you should do as much as possible to minimize the risks and diversify the set of eyes that looking at your code.
You're now the CEO of Hacken. You were the CEO of Hacken Proof. What is it like? Because the cybersecurity, as you just mentioned, the cybersecurity industry is so collaborative. How do you view competition? How do you feel growing your business, as well as working with your competitors and, probably being on SEAL teams with your competitors? How is that dichotomy of like, hey, we're trying to grow Hacken to be the best business as possible, but we're also kind of working with some of our other competitors just to make sure the industry itself is more safer so that that we can protect consumers?
I like to do math here. So if we look at Web3 security market and auditors and solo auditors, of course now it's getting better, but how many of them we have? Do you have any guess?
I don't know. I don't like Halborn, you block. Everyone does a little bit different. Blockade, like there's so many different hypernative. I know you all do a little bit something different, but there's so many companies,
Mhm.
especially coming out of Israel. It's like they have a assembly line of CISO type companies coming out where they fund them, get them customers, they raise a bunch of money, and they just kind of send them back through the through the conveyor line.
Honestly, I don't think it's enough because I mean, it's like 20, 30 probably,
Right.
specifically in this niche. And how many companies we have? Thousands? Like how many projects on CoinMarketCap? No, let's not count all of them who takes security probably not that seriously, but we have a lot, and we're still not enough in terms of cybersecurity specialists in like general in the world than in our small niche in Web3. So for me, it's more about the competition because if you look at this crazy like ICO times when their lines could be like 2 months for get audits, like it was crazy. It's not like this anymore for a majority of the providers, but there is quite a few that have long lines. For me, it's more about the competition and making sure that the industry will all work together, secure, not losing trust, and we all contributing from different angles, which is important. And you mentioned different companies that are doing different part of security. If we look at the cybersecurity as the whole, we have so many different domains that we need specialists in, like starting from different cryptography for like user protection, for physical security, which is also getting more popular in crypto, for on-chain monitoring, code analysis, and forensics, and way more. So we're still not enough, and it's a lot of opportunities with the industry getting more mature. So hopefully we'll see more and more companies rising in the sphere and doing great job.
I love that you're coming from it from a creative lens. Like, can we create more companies to help out the industry versus competing with all these companies? Because I think many of you are, you've been in the industry for a long time. You've sat on panels. You probably worked together on different projects. You probably see like this is not really competition when we're still not able to service the amount of crypto companies, which is only going to broaden as everyone wants to be obviously a stablecoin company, probably in the US now. I don't think we can leave this conversation without talking about Bybit. You mentioned it before. You had a full investigation breakdown on the website that people should go check out the blog because it's very interesting. Can you give us a high level what happened? What are steps to avoid this in the future? And maybe even just the community reaction to it. And did you see that collaborative nature of all the companies, whether it was crypto recovery companies, cybersecurity companies? Maybe walk us through that.
I think Bybit was the case where we finally saw how industries advanced in collaboration and helping each other. It was not the case a couple of years ago. So what's happened was the malicious interface that was related to assigning the transactions while they're doing like their regular hot and cold checks, wallet checks. So that was attack on the kind of it was like really sophisticated attack and involved like the groups that we all know about. So it's definitely about it's not about the smart contract vulnerability, right? It's more on the operational security, on the like key management and access controls. So definitely something that we've been learning through all this year about the key management and the private key leakage is one of the top attacks that's happening right now, especially with the guys from North Korea being responsible for a lot of this. And like what you can do, you can definitely secure your infrastructure, make sure that you have multi-sigs, you're operating properly all the of providing access and revoking access, and having all this in place, as well as protecting the endpoints like computers, mobile phones, and everything, and making sure that users are aware of this kind of attacks. Because in the end of the day, you can protect your smart contract, but when you don't have people who understand what can happen and clicking and downloading something, like what it doesn't matter. As they say, you're like you're that strong as your weakest link, and weakest link is usually people. So we definitely need to invest in multiple fronts in the cybersecurity, starting from people education, operational security practices, and then go into application security, like all the smart contract and protocol attacks.
You mentioned access controls. We read over, you have probably and I don't want to shed light or, dim the light of maybe some of your other Web3 security reports, but you probably have the best one in the industry that I know that people talk about. And the number one threat you put in that report in Web3 today is an access control exploit. Can you kind of explain a little bit basics? Give us the basics of what that is and why Web3 companies have to start taking this a little bit more seriously.
Yeah, literally, it's about like who holds these keys, and that holds all the crypto you have, and how how you sign transactions, how you make any operations there, and where you store these keys, right? So we have different methods how you can do it. Definitely, you can just store it like on your computer. You can have hardware devices, and so there are a lot of different ways how you can operate this. And the most important here is having multi-sigs and not a single point of failure, and making sure that all the people involved in this thing is secure. So for me, it's a complex. Cybersecurity is kind of art because you need to think creatively and think out of the box. That's why I like hackers and this hacker mindset, because you need to think like what can go wrong and how can I trick the system. I really liked. I had a yesterday call with HR, and we were talking about passing the tests for like getting to Hacken. So we have different type of tests, and they were presenting the system that kind of like make screenshots, track your IP, like your camera, and blah 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 blah. And they were like, okay, how can we trick the system? That was the discussion over all the leads. Like what can go wrong here? And I believe hacker mindset is different. That's why while building the system, you need to make the full like threat landscape and understand for each asset what kind of threats you have and how you minimize all the all these threats with the actions that you do. Same comes to operation management, key management, educating people, educating like personnel responsible for signing this. And also, I think what comes like more and more often, unfortunately, these days is the physical security issues and having like physical like cold wallets with you at the conferences might be not the smartest move you can do because I remember this conference in Colombia. It was DEF CON, right? A couple of years ago, when they say, please don't wear your branded t-shirts, no crypto signs in you that you have some money and they came here, for the crypto conference. So general, paranoia and being cautious is important. It's not only on the digital world, it's also on the physical world these days.
Are you worried as you're better protecting the digital world? We're seeing a lot more kidnappings. We saw some in New York, in Canada. One of our friends here, Dean Skirka, it's now Robinhood, but was with WonderFi at the time. Are you seeing that pick up more as like cyber criminals like, hey, we're not getting that kind of traction that we once were. Let's just go back to, kidnapping people and stealing their tokens. We're seeing, I forgot what it's called in Europe, where they kind of like set you up at a restaurant and tell you have to send funds. And then like there's cameras all over the place looking to access. I forgot the name of it. It's not a ripoff. Maybe it's
there is a piggybacking shoulder. What is that? When you're like kind of looking at the shoulder,
yeah,
right?
like a rip scam. I remember the word was rip scam. Are you seeing more physical, like lately? Kidnapping in crypto has always been there, but like even the Ledger founder and their wife, like, are you seeing more cases like this because now it's a little bit more difficult to digitally remove crypto from these victims?
I believe it's different groups that operating in physical and digital world. So for sure, it's not related, but we see more such cases, and I think we should be like more cautious because everyone knows that crypto is something fancy and you can get a lot of money there and all this like rich kids and blah blah blah, and a lot of people sharing all this in their like social media. So I think we should be more cautious and definitely think about this as well, especially going to all these crypto conferences where we all have there together and people know who is who. And there are a lot of bad actors, of course.
Awesome. We don't have any sound effects on this show, but we wanted to say like happy birthday because Hacken just turned 8 years old. And as a birthday present to the industry, you're now unveiling a new suite of service offerings, including CASP and VASP compliance, AI security, proof of reserve audits. Can you talk about some of these new services and what prompted you to bring them to the market?
Yeah, definitely. So at Hacken, we always been looking in the industry and seeing like how we can help customers in different layers. So for the proof of reserves, we started to do it like right after FTX happened. And we already help a lot of crypto exchanges to prove their solvency and showing its live on our website so you can easily check it. We do this for compliance. We briefly discussed this that for getting licenses in different jurisdictions, you need to go through cybersecurity check marks, including different penetration testing, having proper incident response, on-chain monitoring, bug bounties, and a lot of stuff that we help companies with. So actually, it's kind of our like traditional service suite, but more towards the compliance and with the proper wording and the exact requirements from regulators and different jurisdictions. And another one is the AI security, which brings us more and more new threats coming. It's not that popular yet, I would say, but we're slowly but steadily getting there with all the like tricking LLMs, prompt injections, and stuff like this. So even like OWASP top 10 now have the LLM security checklist where you can go and look at all the possible vulnerabilities. And we can see from time to time more cases about like data leakage or manipulating the models or hallucination and getting more threats out of that. And we see how corporates kind of firewalling the requests from different copilots and how they're trying to control it, not to leak any corporate information. So this area where we'll see more and more products and threats. So I'm like particularly really excited about this one.
Are you seeing like any AI horror stories that you're like, oh man, this has like led you to branch out some of these security packages? Especially AI feels like crypto in 2015. It's new, it's flashy, everyone's making money. It's even worse because like people are actually making a lot of money now, and people are just throwing all of their information all of their company data into these LLMs to try and figure out the best competitive advantage. We saw Sam Altman say, hey, like, you're not protected here from like a privilege perspective. And if we get, subpoenaed by the government, we're turning over all the information that you've uploaded to ChatGPT. What are your thoughts? Have you heard any bad stories? And like, why are customers using this AI security that you're offering?
I would say something that we heard before was about the AI fakes and AI fakes on the calls. And like different North Koreans using AI to go through interviews. That's more interesting for sure because we're kind of tricking the system and tricking the like the usual operation processes. And I know that there are a lot of solutions right now on the market that trying to spot this AI fakes on the Zoom calls and trying to notify users about any suspicious activities there. As for like AI security services, it's kind of like red teaming of different agents. AI security becoming more important when we see all this agentic future, right, and sharing credentials and payments and like kind of how it's called, like making them like agents make some like important actions like paying for something like trading now, making decisions. So that's where we should test how it's implemented, what are their like risk levels we are okay with, and where we should be more cautious and find a way to protect it.
Very similar to smart contract audits and pen testing that you're doing, right? We're letting agents go on our behalf and book holidays. Hackers are just sitting there like, oh, this is perfect.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I'm curious. You mentioned, ethical hacking and black hat conferences. Are there differences between, obviously there's differences between black hat, white hat, and everything in between. Over the years, maybe the decade that you've been in the industry, have those lines started to become blurred as to like what's a black hat versus white hat, who's bad, who's not bad, or are they very distinct classifications still?
Yeah, it's interesting. So as I mentioned, for me, hacker is about the mindset. And of course, now we have this like white hat hackers, black hat hackers, and gray hat hackers. Personally, for me, it's about your personal values and ethics that you follow. And if you look at the majority of security researchers that are public on all the bug bounty platforms, participating in all the contests, it's about their, public journey, their CV. So you will not risk this, the skill you have. No, you will not risk this and your career to get something bad. And from other side, all these guys who are cyber criminals, they are not great in public, right? They are hiding, they are like being someone else. And this is two different types of people, and it's about values. If you look at the like physical world, it's the same. There's people who can harm others and there's people who cannot, because I mean they are, it's not about them at all, right? So same goes for white hats and the black hats for me.
You mentioned your HR department having that kind of like hacking mindset. We've seen that North Korean employees, IT employees, is one of the biggest problems. We've seen even, non North Korean people hold 5, 6 jobs with
Yes.
VC backed companies
Yes.
without them knowing. What are your thoughts? Is there any offerings that you have that better protects companies that are hiring employees? Is that something maybe your HR department and you could be like, hey, we have this checklist. This is something that companies need to implement because we're literally hiring, the same hackers are going to exploit our smart contract codes. They're the ones holding the keys because they're the ones developing a lot of this technology, especially because they have the expertise that these companies are rushing into the industry, especially when it comes to AI needs.
Yeah, I believe the problem with HR security is a big of this industry because, as you mentioned, we are like rushing to deliver the code. But there is not enough specialists in this industry, so we are hiring globally, and we even don't know these people. And we had quite a few hacks in this industry. I don't remember the names, but when it was like just like really anonymous developers that holds all the keys. Like how you can trust this to someone you don't know, you don't have documents, and you're like no traces, right? So for me, it's about the companies building proper like recruitment processes and going through all the like background checks, KYC checks, and doing like reference check with the previous places of work. So really taking care about this, because now we can see that we are, we have like smart contract vulnerabilities, which is a big problem. We have access control issues. Now we have this HR security issues that we need to think about as well. If you are building, sustainable company, you want to scale. you definitely need to check the people you work with, because on the day at the end of the day, it's all about people.
What are your thoughts about the future of cybersecurity? You've seen it evolve over the last 10 years. What does the future look like, especially we're getting to the point where every company is going to be a blockchain or digital asset company in some way, just like every company has a social media presence. We're getting closer and closer to that for those companies to be competitive. And, every company is going to be utilizing AI now. What does the future of cybersecurity look like in your perspective?
So my dream for this industry, we have a standards that's wide accepted by the industry players and governments, and we are kind of playing in the same like rules in terms of cybersecurity, and we are protecting the trust of this industry, finance, and users. This is the first. The second, definitely, is about more collaboration. So in the Bybit hack, we saw how their competitors helping them, and how different security companies helping them to freeze funds, to track them, to find the hackers, to operate these bounty programs. So this is kind of the collaboration we'd like to see more in the industry and helping each other, because I believe our like kind of crypto pond is not that big yet. And you probably, if you go to conferences, you see the same people over and over in different parts of the world. So for me, it's about building the trust and cooperation in this circle, and also building the products that address the needs. And we see that Web3 security sphere is super dynamic, and we need to keep the space with the both like offensive and defensive side. And we need to build products that help us to automate a lot of work we do and prevent as much as possible before it happens, not after we need to investigate it.
I love that. It makes so much sense. You're on a personal level, you co-founded this company, but for the first time, you're now the CEO and sitting in that CEO role of over almost 150 employees. What is it like from your perspective, especially now as you're emerging into, a stratosphere of new product offerings and new services?
It's a really new, exciting role to be in, and I'm trying to apply same hacker mindset that I've been like following all over the years, and trying to optimize the processes, optimize the like people and structures that we have right now, and make sure it works efficiently. I really love numbers and the dashboards, so that's what I'm trying to get right now for the whole company, and as much as possible, and the different metrics. And also, what is important for me is people with whom I work, and like developing these people and investing in their education, and making sure we're kind of sustainable business and resilient business. I think resilience in cybersecurity is, is really the key. And we've been like go through all these cycles, all the like COVID wars and everything. And resilience is definitely one of the key stuff that we have.
Are you noticing a cultural or at least, technological shift? Maybe within your organization, maybe within the industry. We're seeing, a lot of blockchain companies like they're reducing this DEI agenda. They're leveraging AI means they're reducing their staff a lot. And we're getting more into like the go fast and break things kind of like bro culture that we all know in traditional tech and in traditional crypto. As a woman in this space, do you see this shift away from diversity and people back to like robots and math and solutions that incorporate the latest and greatest technology?
I was reading an article yesterday, and it really reminded me about the early days of blockchain. It was about AI. Like, first, do you really need AI there? What problem it solves? And can you do it without AI? And it reminded me like all days about same stuff, but with blockchain. And I think that people will have more creative work to do, and controlling and the automated processes, and making sure it works properly, especially if from cybersecurity standpoint. I don't trust it, and like definitely need to verify it and control it. So people would be still the key for me, but just in different angle. And as for like diversity, I see we have more diverse environments right now, and crypto is global, right? We have all these teams that are distributed all over the globe, and it was like really hard to find the spot to have a call for majority of the teams, like from US to Asia. So diversity is definitely a big plus in this industry, and like globalization. If we look at different type of businesses, it's not like this. Crypto has really this charm and being that global and decentralized and diverse. That's why I also really like it.
Any exciting announcements? I know you have the whole announcement is like Hacken's growing up, you're maturing now, you have all these different offerings. Is there anything that maybe one of those offerings you're like, oh, you kind of pushed it internally, that's kind of like your baby that you really want to see come to market?
For me, it's more about like where we apply this. So we are the biggest auditor in the Europe and the European market, and now our next big step is the US market and scaling there, hiring there, making operations, and you will definitely hear more from us on this market. So that's what makes me more excited.
Everyone's coming to North America, the US. My
Yes,
phone's ringing off the hook as a
yes.
content creator and, working with some of the big companies. Like, yeah, we just want to like instant traction right now. It's been a busy summer.
It
I'm
doesn't
curious.
work. It doesn't work like this instant traction and
And
instant
that's what I tell them. You have to build. And that's why they come to our company because they're like, hey, you already have an audience. Can you just introduce us to your audience? It's like, well, you have to kind of build something here. I think people are confused. Similar to probably, you probably see it now too. Everyone wants to work in cybersecurity and get paid the big bucks. You're like, hey, it doesn't quite work like that. You have to get acclimated to the communities.
Yeah.
What are some of your nerdy, and I say nerds because in crypto, nerds is a sign and a term of endearment. What are some of your nerdy tech friends doing, playing with in their free time? Are we still on the cold plunges? Maybe,
Yeah. Yes.
mushroom medicines to help us alleviate our childhood trauma. What are people playing with that you're like, this is kind of nerdy and people will probably be doing this in the next 5 years?
You're just into the point because cold plunges is my favorite thing to do. And I got really interested into like biohacking last year. I created my community of Web3 founders and that we like discuss all the stuff regarding like faster recovery, better sleep, more productivity, and how to survive all this like international flights and crypto conferences. So definitely for me, it's more about the tracking my health with different devices, doing a different, like saunas and cold plunges. For sure, it's my weekly routine and experimenting with different supplements, like personalized supplements based on my DNA and going through different, stimulating my vagus nerve and the calming calming me down. But because let's be honest, like crypto and cybersecurity is like really stressful environment where you definitely need to recover faster and calm you down faster.
I was
So
gonna say, for 8 years in crypto and cybersecurity, it looks like you're getting young. I've known you like seen what you've been working on for quite a while now. Looks like you're getting younger. So maybe you can send us a one pager on what to do to look younger in crypto, even after founding a company that's probably up every day. Every day there's some
oh
cybersecurity
yeah.
related event happening. So sleep is probably not something that you're known for. Yeah, this has been an enlightening conversation. I think everyone knows you for hacking and all, you do a ton of speaking engagements, but it's fun to get the personal side of entering into a CEO role and taking this company to, what is going to be another 8 years of fruitfulness. Where can people find you? What are the actual social media platforms that you might respond to, even though I'm sure you're OPSEC heavy?
Yeah, definitely. We're still on X. Follow us on Hacking Club and myself. And yeah, Hacking your LinkedIn. I'm still checking it, even though it's kind of full of AI written messages, but I still do my best to go through all of them.
You don't want to connect with like-minded professionals that have synergies and want to collaborate?
Of course, especially those like longevity focused and conscious about their health and being like building sustainable businesses and
I love
results.
I love it. I love the AI the AI comments have me like unhinged right now. That is like, oh, thank you for summarizing my whole post and reading it back to me in a paragraph in the comment section. Yev, this has always been great. Thank you so much. I'm excited to see the offerings. I'm excited to go offline with you and talk about compliance and what you're seeing and what I've seen in the crypto industry. Because now I think cybersecurity and compliance, similar to how like compliance and fraud weren't in the same silos. They were being very, separate. I think now all of these kind of business units need to come together and have a conversation because it's all falling under similar regulations around the world. Yev, thank you so much for joining the Around the Coin podcast.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.